Hey, what's up? What's going on, everyone? Good morning. Good morning. Your friend Dean Kulaweera here, IT recruiter with Tech Recruiters 360. Hope everyone is doing great and fantastic, and you're off to a great start this week. It is Wednesday, and you know what that means. Every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone, I'm right here to help you folks out with any job search or recruitment related questions, comments, feedback, problems, challenges that you might be facing at your end, all right? Whether you're asking as a job seeker, or maybe you're an organization, maybe you're a hiring manager, you got some questions related to your recruitment process. Hey, anything goes. Feel free to let me know in the comments, folks, and don't be shy. Feel free to introduce yourself in the comments. We got my friend Ashwin in the house. Ashwin says, "Hey Dean, how are you?" I'm doing great, Ashwin. I'm doing fantastic. Hope you are doing well and hope you're doing great. I think you joined in last week or the week before or something like that, because your name definitely looks familiar. So hey, great to have you here, my friend. Thanks so much for tuning in. So look, again, if for those of you tuning in for the first time, again, every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone, I go live here on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I was trying to go live on Instagram, but recently I don't know what's been happening. Like, Instagram's been giving me problems. It keeps flashing in and out of the stream. So hopefully those of you who were watching me on Instagram, I was just trying it a few minutes earlier, are now joining me on one of the other channels, either LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. So what was I going to say? I was going to say something and I know I forgot it. But okay, in any case, let's keep moving forward. All right. So any questions you have, job search related or recruitment related, feel free to put it in the comments. So every week on my stream, I first open it up by talking about one specific topic. And then I kind of open it up to a Q&A where all of you folks can ask whatever questions you have. Again, job search related or recruitment related as well. And for those of you who don't know, my name is Dean Kulaweera. I'm an IT recruiter. I've been in the recruitment industry for about 8+ years. Recently, around a couple of months ago, I think it was during August or September, started my own IT recruitment agency here in the Greater Toronto area. So if you're an IT professional, definitely want to know you, definitely want to connect with you, definitely want to hear about your career plans, whether short-term, long-term, or whatever the case is. So feel free to definitely make sure, if you're an IT professional in the Greater Toronto area, make sure you send me a connection request. Make sure you follow me if you don't want to do the connection request thing, and make sure you send me a direct message as well. And feel free to introduce yourself and let me know who you are, what your plans are in your career, what your field is, what your skill set is. Would definitely love to hear more about what your plans are for yourself. Let me just really quick check. Yeah, it looks like I'm live and everything's good. And again, don't be shy. Feel free to introduce yourself in the comments as well. All right. I think we are all good with that. And if you want to follow me on my other social channels, I'm also active on I'm active on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Occasionally, I get invited to a couple of rooms on Clubhouse. So feel free to follow me. All my social links are in my Linktree channel. So you can go to this link, which is linktr.ee/DK Tech Recruiter, linktr.ee/DK Tech Recruiter if you want to follow me on all of my social channels. I put a lot of daily tips, especially daily 60-second tips on Instagram, YouTube, as well as TikTok as well. All right. So feel free to check me out on those channels as well. So that being said, today's topic, what I want to talk about today, folks, is a common concern I get from a lot of people, and that is in regards to career gaps, sabbaticals, time off, right? This is a common area of concern I get from people who are job seekers who reach out to me with questions, job search related questions. They're like, Dean, how do I address my career gap? How do I address my career break? How do I address my sabbaticals and stuff like that? By the way, Ashwin, I did see that you put a question in the comments. I'm gonna get to the question shortly. I'm just gonna get through with today's topic first, and that goes for the rest of you as well. If you have any questions, feel free to plug in the comments right now. So that way, by the time we reach the Q&A part, you're good to go, and I will get to your question. All right. But what I want to kick off today's segment on is talking about career gaps, career breaks, sabbaticals. Look, everyone takes some time off, right? For whatever reasons, maybe personal reasons, maybe professional reasons, maybe you just want to take some time off. Maybe you need a breather from your career. Maybe you got an opportunity to travel, or whatever the case is, folks. All right. Today, what I want to talk about is three steps, okay, in addressing these career breaks and gaps and sabbaticals you might have taken at your job interviews. All right. And this is something that I want to arm you with so you feel more confident about dealing with this, especially if this is your situation and you're a bit worried and concerned about this as you go into your interviews, right? Whether it's a phone interview, video interview, in-person interview, doesn't matter. All right. So I'm going to talk about three steps. So make sure you're ready to take notes. And again, any questions you have along the way, either related to this topic or something else, feel free to plug that into the comments. So step number one is don't panic. All right. A lot of people who ask me about these career breaks and sabbaticals and time off are a lot of you are like panicking and freaking out. You're like, oh my God, Dean, I have a recent career break. I have a career break. I took some time off. This is really going to affect my ability to interview, and it's going to affect me as being a potential candidate. Folks, calm down. All right. Calm down. Okay. The first step is don't panic. Calm down. Take a deep breath. This is nothing to feel freaked out and panicked about. Okay. At least if you're not, at least if you are handling this the right way and correctly, which is what I'm going to get to in the remaining two steps of the process. But step number one is don't freak out, don't panic, calm down. Everyone takes time off at some point. All right. Maybe not everyone, but hey, I'd say a vast majority of us out there, we take some time off. We take some career breaks. We take some sabbaticals. So step number one is don't freak out, don't panic, calm yourself down. Okay. It's okay. It's going to be okay. All right. Now, step number two is, and this is the thing, right? Step number two is not all career breaks are something you need to even concern yourself with, because step number two is how recent or current is this time off that you took or this career break that you took, right? Some of you asked me about, hey, Dean, so I took a career break like 5 years ago or 5 years ago. How do I address that? Blah, blah, blah. Folks, if it was 5 years ago, me personally as a recruiter and from what I've seen from my peers in the industry as recruiters, if it's something from a long time ago, I mean, unless it's something that severely affected your skill set or took you away from your core abilities and functions and expertise, if it's something from 5 years ago, I mean, it doesn't even matter. Like me as a recruiter, I'm not even going to focus on that. I might ask you out of curiosity, hey, I noticed that 5 years ago, 3 to 5 years ago, 3 years ago, you took off a year or 2 years off. I might ask out of curiosity, but it's more out of curiosity and not something that's going to affect my viewpoint or perspective on you or opinion on you as a potential candidate for the role, right? More important, however, are the career breaks you've taken recently or currently. If it's something current, like you've been off the market, like you haven't been working for the past year or 2 years or 3 years, then yeah, I'm probably going to ask about that. Those are the more important career breaks and career gaps that are of more importance to the recruiter, to the hiring manager, to the supervisor, the team lead, whoever it is that's interviewing you, right? The more recent, the more current the career break, the more recent or current the career break, the more likely that they're going to want to know what happened there, right? And they're going to ask you about this. So I noticed that you took a career break. Any particular reason for that, or what happened? Or I noticed that you haven't been working for the past year or 2 years. So step number two is the more recent or current the career break, the more likelihood that it's going to be something that they're going to bring up. Okay. Now the rest of you, if your last career break was from a couple of years back, yeah, I mean, be prepared to talk about it. You might want to be able to mention it, but if it's from a few years back, and as long as it's not something that totally affected your career path in some way, then it's nothing to really be concerned about, at least in my opinion, at least from what I've observed from my peers in the industry, as well as hiring teams and hiring managers. Like I've never had a hiring manager tell me, folks, never had a hiring manager tell me, yeah, we can't consider this candidate because they took a career break 5 years ago. Like I've just never heard it in my over 8 years in the industry, right? So that is step number two. All right. Step number two is how recent or current was the career break. Now, step number three, this is the most important part. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of my lemon water before I get into this. Because step three is the most important part. And that is, what is the real concern? What is the real concern when a recruiter, when a hiring manager, when an interviewer asks you, why have you been off the market for the past 2 years, or 1 year, or 2 years, or I noticed that you were last working in 2019. What's happened since then? What's the real concern here? The real concern is not why you actually took the time off. Okay, a lot of you folks think that you got to come up with some fancy story about why you took time off. Oh, I had such and such happen. I was doing this happened, or that happened. Yeah, I mean, they might be curious. They might be curious to know why exactly you took the time off, but that's not the most important part of these inquiries, folks, regarding why you took time off. The real concern, what they're not asking, is simply a couple of things, okay? And it could be a kind of a mix of all of these things, or it could mean one thing or the other. What they're really asking it when they're saying, "Oh, I noticed you were last working in 2019. What's been happening since then?" "Oh, hey, I noticed you took a year and a half or 2 years off, and you haven't been working for the past 2 years." The real concern is not why you took the time off, but the real concern is, how rusty are you? Right? That is the real concern. That's what they don't want to overtly ask you. Are you rusty? Can you still do your stuff? Are you still competent in your ability to perform the duties and responsibilities and functions of someone in your role and in your position? That is the real concern, folks. Right? And they're not going to overtly ask you this, right? Because I mean, who knows why? Maybe I don't know if it's even legal to ask something like that. I don't think it's illegal, but even if not that, it's just kind of awkward to ask someone that question, right? Recruiters, hiring managers, interviewers, they might not want to offend someone, right? So they're not going to overtly ask you that, or let you know that this is their real concern. Are you still able to competently perform in the role despite the recent time off you've taken of a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is? That is the real concern, right? And the other concern is, how long is it going to take you to ramp up and stay up to date? Oh, sorry, not stay up to date, but that is a different point in itself. But how long is it going to take for you to ramp up and be able to perform in this role that we're considering you for? Right? That's another concern. Other concern is, do you have you been keeping up to date in your industry? Now, this might or might not apply to you depending on your field and your skill set in your industry. But there are some fields out there where things really, change and alter over within the course of a year, right? And if you've been taking a year off, or 2 years off, or 3 years off, what they want to know is, what they're not asking, but what they want to know is, have you been keeping close to your industry, to your field, to your skill set? Or has the 2-3 years you've taken off resulted in you maybe requiring more of a ramp up period and some time to get settled in, get up to speed, maybe relearn some things? These are the real concerns, folks, when they're asking about your career gaps, your career breaks, the time off that you've taken. And again, in most cases, they are not going to overtly, frankly ask you these questions. They're not going to say, like if it was me, like if I was the one being interviewed, and let's say I took a year off, or 2 years off, the interviewer is probably not going to say, "Hey, Dean, our concern is you might be a little rusty," right? Most interviewers out there are not going to say that, because they don't want to come across as impolite or unprofessional, or potentially offend someone, right? They're probably not going to say, "Hey, Dean, so our concern is, how long are you going to take to ramp up and get up to speed on this project, so we can really get things going," right? These are the real unspoken questions that they have on top of mind, folks, right? And even though they're not going to overtly ask you these questions, my point here is, when you're responding, when you're talking about your career breaks, you need to interject and explain these things, even though they're not overtly asking you these things, right? So apart from saying, "Yeah, I took time off because of reasons XYZ," you also want to say that despite the fact that I was taking time off, such and such and such is what I've been doing to keep up to date in my field and my industry. Maybe you took some certifications, maybe you kept working on some side projects, some personal projects, right? Or maybe you're still able to deliver on what you're able to deliver on because you've been keeping up to speed on your field, your skill set, your industry, or whatever the case is. So this is the unspoken concern you have to address when you're talking about your career breaks, time off you've taken. And again, I can't stress this enough. Step number 3 is the most important part, because you have to address these unspoken concerns. And again, the unspoken concern is not the fact that you took time off. I mean, that is probably like the least of the concerns that the company or the organization has. The primary concern they have, and what they're not overly asking, again, I know I'm kind of sounding like a recording here, but the real concern that they're not asking is, are you rusty? Will you still be able to perform in the role? Do you need a ramp up period? And if so, how much of a ramp up period would you need? Right? Because keep in mind, folks, okay, like let's think about this logically and reasonably as well. You're competing for this role maybe against other people who have not taken time off, or who have been recently working in this field and this career, or this type of position that you're interested in. Now, the good news is they still called you in for an interview, for an interview, right? That's the good news, right? So don't go in there thinking, oh my God, I have no chance against other people competing for this role. No, like if you're in the seat, you're being interviewed, it means that there's something they liked about, or at least they felt like you're a strong candidate they want to consider for the role. Now, what you need to do in regards to your career break and taking the time off is, you got to understand that you're competing against people who have not taken a break and who have not taken time off. And the reason why it's so important for you to communicate why you're not rusty, why you're not going to fall behind, why you're not going to be able to not keep up on this project, is, again, you want to be able to compete against other applicants, other candidates who have not taken an extensive period of time off, right? That is the real challenge here. That is the actual real challenge and concern that you got to address, because the hiring team's thinking, okay, we got this candidate who's taken some time off, they've taken a year off, they've taken 2 years off, they might need an extensive period of time to catch up and get up to speed on things. And then I got this other candidate who has not taken time off. They're going to be able to come in, they're going to be able to hit the ground running. Who am I going to consider as a hiring manager, right? I mean, I might be leaning more towards the person who's able to hit the ground running, right? Now, that does not mean that if you require a bit of a ramp up period, that they're gonna discard you. That's not what I'm saying here. But what I'm saying here is, this is what the hiring manager is thinking, right? This is what they're thinking. So you got to help them figure out that, yes, despite the fact that you've taken a year off or 2 years off or whatever it is, or a couple of months off, this will not prevent you from succeeding in this role. Like, this is not going to prevent you from hitting the ground running. Yes, maybe you might need a week or a couple of weeks to kind of get up to speed and ramp up and stuff like that, but not to the degree that it's going to adversely affect your ability to perform in the role and achieve results for the company. This is what you got to be communicating when you're talking about your career gaps, breaks, and sabbaticals, folks. This is the real concern you got to address. Again, they're not going to overtly disclose these concerns. They're not going to tell you about these concerns. But what I'm saying here is, you have to include these in your responses when talking about recent or current time off, breaks, sabbaticals, etc. Right? So look, hope today's topic helped you out. I'm going to get into the Q&A shortly, and I'll get to the questions. If you found this session helpful so far, make sure you please hit me up with a like and a share. Always appreciate any likes and shares. Especially share this with anyone who you know. Maybe you got a friend, family member, colleague, peer that you know who they're actively job searching right now. They're concerned about their having a career break, a recent career break. Guarantee that this session will help them, right? So make sure you share it with them, direct message them the link to this session or whatnot, and make sure you hit me up with a like as well if you found today's session helpful. And now let's get into the Q&A part. And before I get into the Q&A part, if you are an IT professional in the Greater Toronto area, definitely want to make sure I know you, I connect with you. Let's get in communication. If I can't help you now, I can definitely help you at some point in the future. Look, folks, I'm a long-term thinker. I'm looking to build relationships with IT professionals over the long term, all right? So whether or not I'm recruiting on something that I can help you with right now, doesn't matter. Send me a direct message, follow me, connect with me, send me a message, comment on my post, whatever it is. I want to know who you are, and I want to know if there's any way I can help you. If not now, at some point in the future, right? That's my goal here. So let's get into the Q&A. All right, any questions? Let's get this done and over with. We got Ashwin. So Ashwin says, "Hey Dean, I'll be moving to Canada soon, and I have been actively seeking for full-time opportunities. I wanted to know, is it difficult to switch industries from your current sector and enter a new one?" So Ashwin, great question. So Ashwin, look, the reality is, if you're switching into like, I don't know if you're switching into a totally different field, or I don't know if you're switching into a different field within like whatever area you're in right now. But yeah, there are certainly some challenges, right? Because keep in mind, you're probably going to be competing against applicants who have been working in the field or the sector that you're getting into, right? People who have existing experience and all that stuff. That being said, my advice to you, Ashwin, is if you're currently working, see if you can try and already transition into this area. Maybe speak to your current manager, see if you can start working on some projects in this new area you want to get into, right? If not, what you want to do is, the second thing is, you want to do is, you want to take inventory of all of your transferable skills that you bring to the table that you can apply to this new sector, this new area that you want to get into, right? Leverage your transferable skills, folks. All right, and this goes for all of you out there. If you're moving into a different field, different sector, different type of position, you're not going in completely in the dark. Like, you do have something that you're leveraging, right? And that is your transferable skills, right? So take inventory. I would suggest, Ashwin, take a sheet of paper, write down all of your transferable skills from your current field, and those that you can apply into this new field or new sector you're trying to get into. So it's not going to be a walk in the park. There's definitely going to be challenges, but you want to leverage what you have and bring this into this new field you're trying to get into. All right. So hope that helps, Ashwin. Great question there. And hope that helps. We got Aryan Tumber says, "Hello, sir." Hey, Aryan, no need to call me sir. Just call me Dean. And good to have you here. And thanks so much for tuning in. Musmi Banja says, "Great points." Hey, great to hear that, Musmi, and hope it was helpful. And thanks for tuning in, and great to have you here with us today. So Mohammed Farhan says, so shout out to Mohammed. Thanks for tuning in, Mohammed. Mohammed Farhan says, "The candidate can explain only if they get an invite. Most of the resume would be ignored in the first place. Stigma is there, Dean. People with gaps won't even get an interview." Yeah, you know what, Mohammed? That's I mean, this is the reality, folks, right? What Mohammed is saying is the truth. I mean, it's definitely is the case. If you have a recent career gap, at least most recruiters will, at least staffing agency recruiters will not be able to help you. Like, I can tell you frankly right now, folks, and most staffing agency recruiters out there will not honestly tell you this because they don't want to offend anyone or anything like that. But hey, my mission is, I want to arm you folks with realistic advice, right? So if that comes at the risk of offending some of you, I'm okay with that. So I'll let you know right now, folks, right? If you have a recent career gap and you're reaching out to most staffing agency recruiters, myself included, I will probably not be able to help you because staffing agencies, we charge an additional fee to our clients, right? Which are organizations. So our organizations expect us to, at the very least, find people that are currently in the field and working in the field, right? They don't have like some extensive career gap. Because if I were to present someone to a client hasn't been working for the past year or 2 years or 3 years, my client's going to get back to me and be like, "Dean, what is this? Like, I could find people with career gaps on my own. Like, we want you to find like people who are in the field, who are working, who are currently working right now." So keep in mind, folks, that this is nothing the recruiters personally have against you. It's simply that the demands of our clients. If a client is paying a third-party recruiter such as myself a fee, they expect me to find people who are currently working or recently working, and who are basically going to have a high chance of being able to hit the ground running. Now, that being said, Mohammed, you do not want to focus all your attention on recruiters, right? I'm assuming in your case, you're probably focusing most of your networking efforts with recruiters, but you also want to dedicate some time, and this goes to Mohammed and everyone else out there. Connect directly with hiring managers. That is your best bet, folks, because recruiters we get our requirements, our criteria, all those things, all those requirements that we're getting from the hiring team, right? So the hiring team might tell us, "Hey, we want this, we want this, we want this, we want someone with recent and current work experience," and there's nothing much we as recruiters can do to change that, because ultimately the hiring manager is the one making those decisions, and the requirements are letting us know. Now, if you exert some efforts, folks, right, into networking directly with hiring managers, this will give you maybe a better shot at least changing the mind of the hiring manager, at least getting on a call with them, at least getting on a networking call with them, and seeing if they might want to consider you for the role, despite you having a career gap. right? So this is what you gotta incorporate into your networking strategies. Don't just focus on recruiters. Don't just focus on HR managers and HR coordinators and HR people. Make direct contact with hiring managers, right? Because those are the ultimate decision makers. Those are the people making the decisions in the first place. Now, I'm not saying every hiring manager out there is going to be open to considering you for the role or open to communicating with you, but those are the people that ultimately make the decisions as to who they want to consider for the roles or not. So don't eliminate networking with and connecting with hiring managers as part of your networking strategy, right? Now, the other piece of advice is, if you have taken some time off, be always see how you can communicate what you've been doing to stay close to your field, your sector, your industry, your skill set, and all that stuff. Maybe you kept working on some side projects. Maybe you kept doing some courses, or maybe you kept doing some certifications. You want to mention these things, right? Because again, going back to what I talked about in my advice today, right? So remember step number 3. Always remember step number 3, folks. Address the real concern. The real concern is: are you rusty? Have you forgotten your field, your how to do certain things in your field? How much of a ramp up period do you require? Do you need a few weeks? Do you need a few months? Like, these are the real concerns in the hiring manager's mind, right? And even in the recruiter's mind as well. So keep in mind, if you are able to get that phone call, if you are able to get that interview, you want to address these unspoken concerns. And if at all possible, you want to address these concerns on your resume as well, right? So don't just put sabbatical, January 2019 to present sabbatical. On your resume, see if you can maybe put in some few notes as to what you did, not on the sabbatical. I mean, who cares about what you did on the sabbatical? What I'm talking about here is what you did to stay on top of your field, your industry, your career, your skill set. Whether it's taking some courses, whether it's working on some personal projects, put in some things to show that you're not completely disconnected from your area, your expertise. Remember, folks, they see you as the potential expert, right? You're supposed to be the expert. And if they have this unspoken concern in their mind, internal concern, that they don't think you're going to be able to get up to speed quick enough, then that's gonna prevent you from moving forward. So even if they don't overtly ask you this, because they don't want to run the risk of offending anyone or anything like that, even if they don't overtly ask you this, always assume, folks, that this is what they're thinking. And you got to make sure when you're talking about your time off, your career breaks, your career gaps, you got to always incorporate how you're going to be able to hit the ground running, how whether or not you're rusty, right? And if so, to what degree, and your ability to basically perform in this role, and how it's not going to prevent you from performing and excelling in this role compared to any other candidate that might not have taken some time off, right? That is the real concern. Ashwin says totally different sector, actually. Okay, so Ashwin, you got to leverage whatever transferable skills you have from the experience you already have and apply that to the new sector. And I'm assuming if you've taken some courses, certifications, and something in for this new area, you want to definitely leverage that as well. Musumi says, yes, I'm not getting interview calls as there is career gap. Yeah, so Musumi, if this is a recent career gap, right now, if I'm talking like maybe you haven't been working for the past year or 2 years or something like that, I would say don't waste your time trying to approach recruiters, right? Recruiters such as myself, we're not going to be able to help you in most cases. Right now, maybe there might be some exceptions out there, unless you're, maybe you have a very specialized skill set, highly specialized, highly niche skill set. Then, yeah, I would say then keep connecting with recruiters. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are connecting directly and networking directly with hiring managers. Those are the ones you want to spend most of your networking efforts on, right? Those are the people you want to connect with and spend most of your time networking with on LinkedIn. And the second thing is, if you are going to reach out to recruiters and if you are going to be connecting with recruiters, focus your efforts on corporate recruiters, right? In-house corporate recruiters. Those are recruiters who work internally at the company you want to work for. Those are the recruiters you want to spend time on. Staffing agencies such as myself, third-party recruiters such as myself, we are typically expected to find people with recent or current work experience, right? And hey, folks, look, don't be mad at us, okay? Don't be mad at us. These are simply what our clients expect of us. All right. I'm just keeping it real with you folks out there. So, Musmi, great job. All the best in your job search. Don't give up, and hope that advice helps. Mohammed says, great points, Dean. That's very detailed. Hey, no worries, Mohammed. I hope it helps us, folks. What portals do you suggest to invest in? P.S. I'm a recruiter for Canadian market. So when you say portals, I'm assuming you're asking, Mohammed, how to platforms to consider to find candidates. Maybe that's what you're asking, or I don't know if you're asking as a job seeker. So assuming you're asking from a recruiter, like where to find candidates, I mean, the most important, the most popular portals, Mohammed, of course, LinkedIn, Monster, Indeed here in Canada. But also look for events in the area. Like, I'm not sure if you're a tech recruiter, Mohammed, or something else, but industry events, right? Whatever field or areas you're recruiting in, see how you can get involved in your industry events, right? For the field that you recruit in. And the other thing is social. I mean, LinkedIn is such a great platform. See if you like make yourself someone who's well known in your industry as a recruiter, right? Participate in events, contribute your knowledge and knowledge as a recruiter. Share helpful tips with job seekers, right? Just like how I'm doing right myself, right? So use all of these various channels to make yourself more visible and more public to the candidates for the industry that you recruit in. All right. So hope that helps, Mohammed. Great to have you here, and thanks so much for your participation today. So K Venkat Rao, shout out to K Venkat Rao. Thanks for tuning in. I worked in IBM Canada on work permit in 2005 to 2006. I'm 53 now. How to get back to Canada now? So Venkat, I'm not sure if you're currently in Canada or you're saying you're overseas. For those of you overseas, I would say if you're like one of the best ways to see if you can transfer to another country is if you're working for a large organization, like, yeah, so looks like Venkat updated. So he says I moved from IBM India to IBM Canada. Yeah, but I'm not sure if you're currently in India or Canada. But anyway, if you're in a different country, folks, the best way for you to get a job or transfer to another country is to see if there's any with your current employer, see if there's any opportunities for you to work on projects in the country that you're looking to transfer to, right? So work on projects for Canadian clients. See if you can then use that as a way to transfer into this other country you want to work for. Yeah, so Venkat says he's in India right now. Yeah, so Venkat, seems like you're working for IBM India. So I mean, IBM is such a huge company, right? So speak with your manager, speak with your boss or manager or director or VP, and leverage your previous experience working for IBM Canada, right? Like you mentioned that, I think you mentioned that you worked in IBM Canada. So first of all, find out what projects that IBM might be working on in Canada that you can leverage your previous experience working for IBM Canada, but even though it was back in 2006. Let them know, hey, look, I noticed that you're working on some projects in Canada right now. I was working on similar projects back in 2006. Let me leverage my knowledge of that area for these projects you're working on right now. And that's how you get your foot in the door, right? Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to see if you can actually get a physical transfer into Canada for this particular project, right? Now, I'm not sure if that is even possible, but what I'm saying is this is how you got to think creatively, Venkat, right? You got to see what avenues exist in your current employer, which is IBM, and see how you can get those transfers or get transferred into these Canadian projects. So hope that helps, Venkat. All the best with you. Ramya says, I'm in US with 4+ years experience in India, CTS. I'm not sure what CTS is. How hard or difficult is it to get a job in the US? Well, it depends, right? It depends, Ramya. Like, yeah, so Ramya's in the US. So I guess, Ramya, you recently moved to the US. So, I mean, it depends, Ramya, right? It depends on how much effort you're putting into your job search. It depends on what your job search strategy is. It depends on, it depends on a whole bunch of stuff, right? The most important thing, Ramya, is you got to get yourself in front of the right people, right? The right people means recruiters, staffing agency recruiters, corporate recruiters, and also hiring managers as well. A lot of you folks ignore the third category, which is hiring managers. Like, you got to use LinkedIn and connect directly with hiring managers as well. I mean, they are the ultimate decision makers, right? So put in more effort into that as well. Hope that helps, Ramya. Great question there. Shazeb says, I've been getting messages. So Shazeb says, so shout out to Shazeb. Good to have you here, my friend. Thanks so much for your question. Sure. So Shazeb says, I've been getting messages from recruiters on LinkedIn, but every one of them is reluctant or hesitant to tell the salary range. Is it not right for candidates to ask for salary? Okay, so this is such a great question because it's such a common frustration I hear from job seekers. Now, my question to you, Shazeb, is, are you asking for the salary range on the LinkedIn message, or are you asking for the salary range on the phone? And the reason why I'm asking this, Shazeb, and this is not just for Shazeb, but everyone else out there, folks, the real conversations should take place over the phone or on video chat. Right nowadays, it's either phone or video chat. That is where you can have a real conversation, and that is where information can flow both ways, right? You to the recruiter and the recruiter to you. The reason why the recruiter does not want to talk about salary range when you if you're just messaging them back and forth on LinkedIn, and you're just doing this through LinkedIn messaging, the reason why recruiters are hesitant to do that, Shazeb, is because they're afraid that if the salary is not good enough, you're not gonna correspond to the role, or you're not gonna keep communicating with them, right? And maybe there is a salary range, but maybe their client is open to considering candidates who want more, right? So what you want to do, first thing you want to do, Shazeb, is and again, this might depend on your schedule and all that stuff is, and it might not be ideal, right? But if you want to increase your chances of getting these conversations and actually having conversations, your first step, Shazeb, is to get on a phone call with the recruiter, right? The recruiter. That should be your first step, because the selling. Okay, I know most of you probably tuning in are not salespeople, but this is a sales opportunity, right? You are selling yourself as a potential candidate, and the selling cannot take place messaging back and forth on LinkedIn, folks, right? So your first task in LinkedIn messaging, if a recruiter reaches out to you, they give you some information about the role, it sounds interesting. Your first thing is to, hey, get on a quick phone call. Now, this doesn't have to be like a 20-minute phone call. You can say, hey, Dean, appreciate you reaching out to me about this. I have, let's get on a quick phone call. Love to hear more about this, and we'd love to let you know more about what I bring to the table. Are you available at 4 o'clock, or whatever? The first thing, Shazeb, is first step, get on a phone call as soon as possible. When you're on the phone call, then it's much easier for you to sell them on what you bring to the table, and of course ask them about what the salary range is and all that good stuff. Worst case scenario, Shazeb, within the first 30 seconds, you ask them about the salary range. It's too low. You can be like, hey, look, I appreciate the call. It's too low for me. But you know what? Let's keep in touch for future opportunities. Because at least when you get on the phone call, they've spoken to you. They know what you're like. And, at least they know a little bit about what you might have brought to the table. So even though this role might be too low for you, they'll keep you in mind for something else, right? So it's a win-win situation. So my advice, Shazeb, have that conversation over the phone. The recruiter will be more willing to talk about that stuff on the phone. So we got Musumi says, I'm not getting interview calls. I have a career gap. Yeah. So like I said before, Musumi, you're probably spending most of your time either applying for job postings online and waiting for a response, or you're spending most of your time trying to reach out to recruiters. So like I said before, Musumi, put in some networking time or networking efforts into hiring managers as well. Connect directly with potential hiring managers. That's a route that most people are not making use of, right? And this is something that should be more helpful for you as well. So I hope that helps most of me. Ramya says, thanks for the info on salary part. Say for example, we asked them on average pay that is paid for the role in US. They keep negotiating, stating that because of career gap. Yeah, so Ramya, if they keep on negotiating, even and they're saying it's because of the career gap, it's because they're not 100% certain that you can step into this role and perform it as well as someone who has not taken a career gap. So your task, Ramya, on this phone call, in the conversation, and by the way, this should be, folks, by the way, you should not be negotiating and convincing and persuading over LinkedIn messaging. Okay, this is not the way to sell yourselves, folks. Like, these are conversations that need to be had over the phone or on video. So Ramya, you got to first of all, you got to get on a phone call or a video call with the recruiter if they want to do the negotiation thing. Do not do it through LinkedIn messaging or email. That is not the place for negotiating. Okay. Now, that being said, if you're on the phone call, you're on the video call, and they keep negotiating, they're saying, oh yeah, well, because of the career gap, we want to move you forward for a lower salary. Then look, first of all, here's how you deal with this, right? First of all, understand internally, you got to understand that they have some concern about the fact that you have a career gap. So you have to understand at some point or moving forward, you have to communicate to them why that career gap is not an issue. Now, the second thing is you got to handle this. It's called an objection or a stall, right? This is a sales terminology. It's an objection, a reason why the recruiter, the hiring manager doesn't want to move ahead with you. The second thing is you got to understand is they're still willing to move forward with you, right? It's not like they're saying, oh, we can't consider you for this role because you have a career gap. No, they want to consider you, but they're trying to use the career gap to lower your salary expectations. So how you respond to that is you say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Recruiter, I totally understand. I totally understand why that because of my career gap, you want to see if I can come in at a lower salary range, because you feel I might not be able to compare to other candidates who might not have taken a career gap. But the reality is, Mr. and Mrs. Recruiter, I am able to perform well in this role, just like anyone else who has not taken a career gap because of reasons X, Y, Z. And I've been doing this and this and this to stay current in my field. So that should not be an issue. And apart from that, Mr. and Mrs. Recruiter, let me ask you, despite the career gap, what caught your attention about my resume? And what prompted you to want to get on this phone call with me? And then shut up and let them tell you what interests them about your profile and your resume, because that's what you want to put the attention on. Okay, because if your career gap was an issue, folks, you would not be on a phone call with them. They would not be interviewing you. They would not be on a phone call with you. So these are all smoke screens, right? These are all negotiation tactics, right? Don't get distracted by this stuff. Think, folks, think. If the career gap was a real issue, why did they even want to interview you? Why are they even on the phone with you? Why? Tell me why, right? So don't get distracted by this stuff, right? Don't get intimidated by the career gap. That's what I was telling you guys first, right? I think it was step number 1. Don't panic, don't freak out, right? Don't let the career gap freak you out. So that's how you gotta deal with this, Ramya, right? Let them know, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Recruiter, I totally understand where you're coming from. Now, that being said, out of curiosity, what caught your attention about my resume, and what made you feel like I would be a great candidate to consider for this role? And then they're gonna say, oh well, because of blah 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 or X Y Z or da 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 da. Then you'll say, okay, great, excellent. And that's exactly what I bring to the table, and this is what I can do in order to perform that stuff and do that stuff and achieve that stuff for this project. Now, I wouldn't expect you to move forward with me if the money didn't make sense, and I promise you that when we reach that point where you feel that I'm the ideal candidate for the role, if you feel that a negotiation needs to be done at that point, I'm more than happy to open the conversation at that point. But let's first figure out if this is a good mutual fit. If you want to consider me for this role, and if I feel this opportunity is the right fit for you. So let's move on to the next step so we can figure that out. But for now, my salary expectation is blah, 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 whatever your salary expectation is. You got to be bold, folks, right? You got to be able to have these conversations. You got to be bold, and you got to think logically, right? So always remember, right, Ramya and anyone else out there, if they're talking about, oh, well, you have a career gap, so, that's why we want to negotiate the salary. Well, in your head, always remember, well, if my career gap is an issue, why the heck are you interviewing me in the first place, right? If it's such a big deal, if it's such a big issue, why are you even on the phone with me, right? Don't say this, right? I'm not saying don't say this to them. What I'm saying is this is what you got to be thinking, folks, right? Think logically. The career gap is not the issue. They're just trying to use some negotiation tactic. Now, it's your task, of course. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have some work cut out for you. Your task is to prove to them, to show them that your career gap is not going to affect your ability to perform and succeed in the role. That is the real underlying concern that you got to address. And if you can address that, then they have no reason to put your career gap as an issue or a reason for you to lower your salary, right? So hope that helps, Ramya. Venka says, is age 53 a barrier to come to Canada? I'm not in IBM now. I'm a director in IT company in India now. How should I work to come over Canada? No, I mean, there's plenty of, look, Venka, there's plenty of people in your age range moving to Canada, trying to kick things off, right? Trying to start a new career over here. But the previous example I gave you is just one of the routes you can take. One of the routes you can take in order to get yourself here in Canada, right? So you got to figure out what routes, what routes, what paths and stuff that you can take in order to get yourself here to Canada, right? So if you're currently a director for an IT company in India, then I mean, yeah, maybe you might have to take a step back. Maybe you got to work a different type of role. But look, the point is, first find a way to come here, because if you're trying to job search while you're in India, it's going to be difficult, right? I thought that you were in IBM, so that's why I was talking about internal transfers and stuff like that. But hey, maybe your current company, I'm not whatever company you're working in right now, maybe there's an opportunity for an internal transfer to a location in Canada. I don't know. So you got to figure out a way to first come here, Venkat. That's when you're going to be a better position to be considered for roles over here. So all the best, Venkat. And by the way, Venkat, if we're not connected, send me a connection request. I mean, I might not be able to help you right now, but if there's but if there's a way I can help you after you've relocated to Canada, definitely want to see if there's a way I can help. All right. So Venkat, send me a connection request. Let's stay in touch. Again, I probably can't help you right now while you're in India, but maybe I can help you after you relocated to Canada. All right. So keep in touch, my friends. Send me a connection request. Let's stay in communication. All right. So hope you found value in today's session. Ramya says, thank you so much. Hey, no worries, Ramya. I think I missed a question from Shazeb. Shazeb says, thanks. I had many messages, but when I asked about this, the conversation ended means no reply. Thank you very much. Yeah, so Shazeb, the conversation probably ended because you asked about the salary, right? And this has nothing to do with you. It's just that recruiters are so frustrated with giving the salary range and then not hearing back from the candidate. So the opposite has happened to a lot of recruiters out there. They provide the salary information and then they never hear back from the candidate again. So it's just this stigma for recruiters as well, right? Nothing. It has nothing to do with you. It's nothing personal. So what you want to do, Shazeb, is again aim for the phone call. Let them know, hey, Dean, appreciate you reaching out. We'll love to chat more about this opportunity. This is what caught my attention. And I've actually done, this and this and this. Let's get on a phone call. When are you available? Right? That would be the best thing for you to do. Or if it's an agency, just call the agency and ask for the recruiter by name, right? Nothing wrong with doing that. Or even if it's a corporate recruiter for that matter, right? I don't see any issues with that either. The phone is way more proactive, folks. Right? It's a better opportunity for you to sell yourself as a viable candidate over the phone, and you can also verify the salary and all that stuff. So thanks so much for tuning in. And by the way, for Shazeb, for hold on, I'm going to call out a few people's names here. Right? For Ashwin, for Musumi, for Mohammed, who else? Venkat, Ramya, Shazeb, and who else? Yeah, all of you folks, you asked some great questions. You did some great participation today. So send me a direct message. I want to send you a copy of my free PDF, How to Run a Recruiter Through Your Resume. All right. It's a free PDF where I have a script where I detail how you should be running recruiters. Okay, this is for recruiters, specifically for recruiters, how you should be running recruiters through your resume. So after the session, send me a direct message. Probably by this afternoon or so, I will respond and I'll provide you with a download from my free PDF, How to Run Recruiters Through Your Resume, so you're prepared to run recruiters through your resume moving forward. All right. So hope that helps you folks out in your job search. And again, appreciate everyone's participation today. All right. So Ashwin says, hi, Dean. When would you suggest is a good time to enter the Canadian job market since holidays are just around the corner? Ashwin, always. Ashwin, I'm not sure if you're overseas or if you're in Canada. If you're in Canada, no excuses, my friend. Holiday season is still business season. All right. A lot of companies, they want to wrap things up before the new year. Right. A lot of you folks, you think that Christmas mean a lot of you folks think, hey, it's Christmas, it's holiday season, let's celebrate, let's take a break, let's chill, let's just relax. No, folks, companies are still looking for people. Companies are still looking for people. All right. Even when I was working for other recruitment agencies, like this was a time where employers were still looking, like they were still looking to hire, interview, recruit, and all that stuff. So keep it going, Ashwin. Right? You want to still keep the job search going. And by the way, when the closer you reach the last 2 weeks of December, is probably the best time for you to start networking with recruiters and employers as well. I think Ashwin put in a new comment. Oh, okay. So Ashwin is overseas. So Ashwin says, I'll be moving to Canada early or mid 2022. Yeah. So Ashwin, then my advice to you then, Ashwin, is start building your network. Now is the time to start building your network. Don't expect anyone to consider you for opportunities while you're still overseas. Again, unless you have a very niche, hard to find skill set. That's a different story. Then they might consider you for roles over here. But in most cases, they won't consider you for roles while you're still overseas. But that does not mean don't do anything at all. That means now is the time for networking. Build your network. Add new people on LinkedIn. Let them. Don't ask for jobs. Don't ask for interviews. Right? You might want that might not be the best approach. You might want to say, "Hey, I'm not sure if you're an IT professional, Ashwin. You might say, hey, I'm an IT professional moving to Toronto or wherever in early 2022, just building my network. Thought it would be great to connect. That's it, and just keep it like that. Wow, it's snowing outside. Looks beautiful. So build your network, Ashwin. Right, build your network so that by the time you come here, you have a strong network that you can leverage in your job search. Right. So hope that helps. Let's see here. So. Anyone else? So Shazeb says, thank you very much. Hey, no worries, Shazeb. Musumi says, thank you so much. The session has been helpful. No worries, Musumi. Then Mehmet says, how do you see this? So shout out to Mehmet. Thanks for tuning in. Mehmet says, how do you see the future of QA tester in the USA as remote? Well, first of all, Mehmet, I can't speak on behalf of the USA because I'm based out of Canada. But I mean, Canada and US are pretty similar. But I would say for QA testers, automation seems to be the way things are going. Like I definitely see for any QA roles that I've recruited on, automation testing has definitely been one of the key things that most hiring managers are looking for in their QAs, right? And definitely, yeah, in terms of remote, for sure, during COVID and this whole trend towards work from home and remote, it's either typically 100% remote or it's a hybrid setup. So definitely, that would be my insights on how things are. So looks like that's it, folks, and I'm almost losing my voice as well. So I think now would be a good time to end the session. Look, hope everyone got a great amount of value from today's session. If you did, make sure you hit me up with a like, and feel free to share this session with anyone else in your network who might benefit from it. And tune in every Wednesday, folks, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone. Now, next week is a special segment. Next week is going to be, what is it next week? Let me put on my calendar real quick. Yeah, the 15th. So next week is December 15th. December 15th, I'm going to have two special guests with me. All right. It's going to be my friend Abiodun Okay and Wale. Forgive me, I cannot remember Wale's last name, but Wale is going to be joining me as well. We're going to be talking about a career path in supply chain. So those of you folks who have an interest in supply chain, the supply chain career path, as well as tech IT opportunities within supply chain, it's going to be an interesting conversation. So join me next Wednesday, same time, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone, right here. It's going to be a really cool, very interesting session. And the great news is you're not going to have to hear me talk for like an hour. It's going to be two special guests joining me, and we're going to be hearing their thoughts and their perspective as experts in the supply chain industry. All right. So hope to see all of you folks there. And hey, see you around, folks. Look, stay positive, keep taking action, and I'll see you around next week. All right. Take care, everyone.